start off, I want to introduce Mo. Mo's actually in the Edmonton, a realtor in the Edmonton greater area, bringing a wealth of expertise from his corporate sales background and with a strong foundation in business and deep understanding of the real estate market. And shortly, Mo is going to go over a little bit about the Edmonton real estate market. So handshake, wave there, Mo, for everybody. Okay, perfect. And next is the man of the hour himself, Zohair. We're a pleasure to have joined with him, the CEO of EQRAZ, a leading expert in Islamic finance. And he has over 25 years of diverse experience across multiple industries and markets. And he has pioneered Sharia-compliant financial solutions, including the first of its kind halal mortgage structure in North America. And I think that's really important to mention too, because he's one of the first ones to put something like this together. And Zohair will walk us through that as well. And next is Naveed. Naveed Malik, he has been in banking in the mortgage industry for about 30 years. And currently he's a mortgage agent, and he will be handling all the mortgages for EQRAZ for Islamic financing across Canada. And to myself, my name is Raza Mohammed. I'll be moderating today. And I'm a real estate broker in the GTA, Greater Toronto Area in Ontario. All right. And to get things started, Mo, since we're discussing in the Edmonton market, would it be okay if you give us a breakdown? What exactly is happening in the market over there? Because I'm sure a lot of people are hearing a lot of different things in the news about real estate right now. So kind of walk us through what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to come on, everyone. So the Edmonton market right now is seeing an increase in demand in buyers at the time, right? So the sheer amount of inventory versus the amount of buyers that we have currently, the buyers just there's a lot more buyers right now looking for properties, first-time home buyers, et cetera, entering the market. However, because of the inventory shortages that we have here, we're facing a challenge with that. So as a seller, it is definitely good to, it's a good time to sell for sure. If you're looking to maybe, retire or downsize, et cetera, it's phenomenal. But what we also are seeing is an uptick in the average price points in Edmonton. And we're seeing that month over month, year over year, over the last, 24 months, 36 months, it's just gone up and it's continuing to go up. And from an economic outlook, based on some of the professionals in the business who study the real estate market in Edmonton and Canada, we are continuing to trend that way. So it's going to be a very hot market in Edmonton. And what I have been telling a lot of my buyers that I've been working with is just be prepared. And I think with EQRAZ providing a solution for the Muslim community, it's going to be a wonderful thing here.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to point out, Mo, it's interesting you say that because we have different markets across Canada. Canada is a massive country, and Ontario market is a market on its own. The BC Vancouver market is a market on its own, and I find that in Edmonton, you guys are really just doing your own thing. Your market's moving in its own direction with the high demand.
It is, and I'll give you an example. We haven't seen the condo market increase in Edmonton in the last decade. We are now starting to see that. And the prices of condos have gone up, which is something that, I have a couple of condos coming up where about a year and a half ago, they would have sold them for about $40,000-$50,000 less. Whereas now, there is a demand for them because of the continued increases in prices in Edmonton and greater area in general. But also a factor that's driving these prices is a lot of Ontario buyers moving to Edmonton, a lot of BC buyers moving to Edmonton. So there's just a lot more demand than we can keep up for inventory. And it really is. Edmonton as a whole, as a major major capital city in Canada, we're definitely still the cheapest, but it's something that everyone's starting to look at and eyes are on us because we are still very affordable.
Yeah, it's interesting. So go ahead.
Sorry, that's interesting that you're saying that because I've got a lot of clients that are in Ontario that are moving out to Alberta, Edmonton. It's quite remarkable, actually. I think price point is very reasonable compared to this region.
And I think if anyone is listening to this, they should take a heed of this because the market itself, even when you mention the condos, because of the housing shortage, people start to shift towards the condos because they need to live somewhere. Yeah. They need to get into the market. And as Naveed just mentioned too, a lot of people moving out there. So I think a lot of Edmonton buyers, it'd be wise to get in sooner than later because even with EQRAZ coming into the marketplace, we could see more pent up demand coming into the market.
And we get a lot of calls, actually, guys. It's interesting because we get a lot of calls from even not just even people who want their own residences in Edmonton and Calgary, but people who want to invest also, which shows the investor sentiment. They expect that the prices will go up, and people are starting to invest more in Edmonton, especially given what's happened in downtown Toronto right now, for example, where generally a lot of people from overseas and so on would invest. But with the condo market in downtown Toronto uh, being completely flat for the next few years, there is a lot, it seems that a lot of people who are moving towards Edmonton and Calgary.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. One other thing I'll note, sorry,
Go
Reza,
ahead.
to interrupt you here.
No worries.
Another factor that has been obviously driving the demand is the rental increases in Edmonton as well. What you used to be able to rent, for example, a two-bedroom apartment for, a few years ago was $1,300-$1,400 a month, has now increased to about $1,800-$1,900 a month, depending on where you are. So when you start factoring in okay, well, if I'm paying this much for a two-bedroom apartment that's 800 square feet, well, for a few $100s more, I could get into a single family house or a semi-detached house that's my own residency. Buyers are now, starting to get into the market because of that as well. So there's a lot of moving factors why there's so much demand, but it's Edmonton's going to be, I think, a hot market for the near future here.
Okay, fantastic. Then Mo, thank you so much for that. Now that we've spoken about the Edmonton market, Zohair, I wanted to ask you a question. I did have the opportunity to go through your website, and I have to commend you. It's a beautiful website. It's very clean, and it does answer a lot of questions. Because when I did go on it, I went on it like a consumer, and if I was to go on it, it would have answered my questions, and I was very impressed. So good job on that. Now, you've introduced like a completely first of its kind product in Canada. We mentioned that earlier when we introduced you. Could you kind of walk us through exactly what you've brought to the table when it comes to Islamic financing?
Yeah, absolutely, Reza. I started researching this around 2018, and before we launched, we actually did about I did almost 2 years of research. Spoke to a lot of the community members here, spoke to the banks, spoke to the capital markets experts, spoke to the tax regulators, and a lot of lawyers who understand Canadian law. The problem that we had was I found that all the past efforts that have of people, of entrepreneurs or founders that have launched halal companies, the issue has been that either they people understand Canadian law and Canadian capital markets, or they understand Islamic finance law. But there was no expertise where somebody understood both, because that's where the challenge is with halal mortgages. The challenge in Canada, it's the only G20 country where the government has not officially changed or amended the regulations to allow for halal, traditional halal products. So what we did was we looked at the traditional halal products and see if they work in Canada. So generally, customers that call us, they ask us about the Murabaha product or the Musharaka product. Those are the two traditional products that are available across the world. Those are the only two products, Murabaha or Musharaka. There's also Ijara, but that's part of Musharaka. So unfortunately, neither of those products work because both of those products involve the lender, the halal lender, purchasing the house and then reselling it to the customer. So in a simple Murabaha product, the lender buys the house, puts the 25 years of profit up front, and then resells it to the customer. What happens with that is, suppose you buy a $1 million house from me. I would buy it for $1 million, and then I would resell it to you for 1.4. So 400,000 of 25 years of profit, I'll put it up front. Now, if you sell the house, say 6 months later for the same 1 million, you have to still pay me the 1.4 million because that's how it was structured. And nobody wants to be stuck with the full 1.4 million payment. So that's the Murabaha product. It doesn't work. DAS has done is we've developed a unique product structure that works in Canada and that is fully Sharia compliant. And what we do is it's a monthly Murabaha structure. So the customer comes to us for funding, we approve them, we give them the money, then they buy the house in their own name. So imagine Naveed comes to me for $1 million, $500,000 in funding. I will approve him and give him the $500,000. He will then go to Mo. Mo will then, as a realtor, get him the house, and the house will be in Naveed's name. So Naveed will pay basically once the house is in Naveed's name, the title in his name, full ownership is his. The price upside, downside, all that risk is Naveed's. TMI responsibility is Naveed's. And then Naveed will keep paying for the term of the mortgage, a monthly murabha profit, and the principal. So just to clarify, the
Well,
payment amounts are the same. Whether it's a halal mortgage, a musharaka mortgage, a murabaha mortgage, EQRAZ structure, or a riba mortgage, the payment calculations are always the same. That's not the point. What Islam requires is that the structure, how you get to those payments, must be halal, must be Sharia compliant. And in Canada, it should also be compliant with Canadian law. So that's what EQRAZ has accomplished, alhamdulillah. The fact is, when EQRAZ was launching, I spent a year and a half on looking at the product structures. And the first, obviously, product that we tried to establish and launch was a Musharaka product, because Musharaka is the most commonly used and the most popular products. The Sharia scholars love it, Sharia boards love it, and the customers are okay with it because uh,
it
the
works.
payments, they're not stuck like the murabha, like the simple murabha in which you buy and resell the house. Unfortunately, Canadian law is very complex. In the UK, in the US, the governments have changed the law to accommodate musharaka products. In Canada, you may have heard, Raza, Mo, Naveed, you guys may have heard as well. Did you hear about all this stuff that the federal government was trying to do? They put halal mortgages in the budget, in the 2024 budget, and they were trying to do research and market consultations. I was one of the guys that they were in consultations with about what laws need to be changed to allow for halal products to be allowed in Canada.
Mhm.
And we had a lot of consultations. Guess what? In the fall economic statement, halal mortgages were not even mentioned. So, despite all the efforts of the government, unfortunately, the law is so complex because there's almost 20 regulations that hit Islamic financial mortgage products. So, 20 regulations would need to be changed in order to accommodate musharaka products. And the government is not going to be able to do that. It will be very, very difficult to, because it's very complex. Coming to your question about the problems with the musharaka, you are absolutely right. In Canada, especially for early stage companies, which is why EQRAZ decided not to launch it, because our lawyers told us that the consumer protection authorities may not like this. In a musharaka, if EQRAZ is issuing a musharaka, and EQRAZ is owning 80% of the company, or let's just say this Musharaka LLC is owning 80% of the house, and you, Raza, are owning 20%. God forbid, 2 years down the line, Musharaka LLC goes bankrupt. What's going to happen to your house? Because Musharaka LLC owns 80% of it. So what's going to happen to your house? The creditors will come after that house and you could lose your home. And there's a Thomson Reuters article about 12 years ago when a halal mortgage provider went bankrupt and what happened to people's homes.
Mhm.
So that is, at least for me, as a responsible Muslim entrepreneur who's trying to help the Islamic community, I did not feel that a Musharaka product would be helping the community. In fact, I feel that it, at least that was my, and look, this is only my opinion. I respect the decisions and opinions of all the other brothers and sisters who are trying to do this. I am just telling you, I'm an actuary by profession. My job is to be very risk averse. I want to offer something that is 100% safe for the customer, that has no surprises, where they will not lose their homes. So we did not offer the Musharaka product for these two major issues. And the way EQRAZ has structured our product, the tax issue is gone. We have a tax opinion from some of the top law firms in Canada. It's been looked at by all the Canadian lawyers to confirm that we are compliant. The other issue is we have made this completely bankruptcy remote for customers. So if EQRAZ, God forbid, goes belly up, goes insolvent, anything happens, the way we have structured the mortgage fund is that we are partnered with Canada's third largest $60 billion mortgage administrator. If something happens to EQRAZ and it stops existing, the fund is going to continue, the administrator is going to continue to handle and manage the fund, and the customer's mortgages will remain safe. And that took us a 3-year period to work with this, to get this mortgage administrator to work with us. And We are working with Canada's largest mortgage custodian, Computershare, to make sure that the continuity of the mortgage does not get affected if something happens to EQRAZ. And I don't think any other um, structure allows for that.
Okay, Praise, thank you so much. And I know people are asking questions in the Q&A. We will definitely be getting to you shortly. And if you have anybody else wants to ask a question, please post it there. Now, you kind of broke down the back end of it, but on the consumer side of it, if Naveed, you on? Is Naveed there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Naveed, now, could you kind of walk us through, like, Zuhair kind of broke down for us, how the product actually works on the back end, but when it comes to approvals and it comes to getting the financing done, and I know you're handling things across Canada, is it different than the conventional way to do it, what people are used to? Is it a different process, or how is it?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the question. Assalamu alaikum, everyone that's on the call. I appreciate your valued time and the opportunity, Mo, for me to speak today. Yeah, so really quickly, I've been in the business for 30 plus years, as mentioned earlier. I've seen a lot of Sharia compliant products out there that have been offered to the community. And for the most part, I was a little hesitant because some of the points that Brother Zahir had made earlier. And so working with Brother Zahir is really helpful to me because it gives me peace of mind that when I walk into the mosque and I see fellow clients and people who have purchased homes and stuff like that, I know they'll be able to stay in their home and I can they'll be safe and good. When it comes to the process, it's exactly the same as any conventional bank or lender in Canada. A very simple process where you complete an application, which takes about 7 or 10 minutes. You're just filling in some very basic information, and then the application basically comes to myself electronically. I will then follow up with clients and validate the information by gathering documents to ensure that everything matches. And I will then send it off to the underwriter. The underwriter will review the file within 24 to 48 hours and issue an approval. At that point in time, we will formally, in writing, just like any other conventional bank, issue an approval, and then we just send everything out to the lawyers for closing. So very easy, very simple, nothing different from anyone else. This is something which I was looking for, primarily to ensure that everyone that goes out to a bank, it's the exact same process. The only difference is that it's Sharia compliant versus non-Sharia compliant.
Okay, fantastic. So the process is very similar to actually how the bank works. You got to verify your documents. They check your credit report. The underwriter reviews it, and based off that, they give you an approval.
Absolutely, that's correct. Yes.
Now, once they give you that approval based off your documents, is it a done deal? The mortgage is approved. You can go out, buy the home. They will finance it.
Yeah. So usually when
Like
we
I'm
issue
asking
a
is, could I take out the financing clause? Once I came to you, got the approval done, could I take out the financing clause?
Absolutely, yes, you can. Yeah, once you've purchased the home, you can then remove the financing clause. In the event that you're looking for a pre-approval, which I think you may have alluded to, what we would do is we'll pull the credit, we'll review the documents, review the application, and confirm that yes, you will be approved for this dollar amount. Once you purchase the property, then we will conduct an appraisal, just like every other institution, confirm that there is a home there, first of all, and then confirm that the value is there and issue a formal approval allowing you to remove financing condition ready to close.
Okay, perfect. Now, the reason why I asked that, because I know in the Edmonton market right now, it's really hot. People there's bidding wars, and then the seller's always going to look at the best conditional offer that works in their favor. So they're going to want things with no conditions, no inspect, things like that, because it's a really hot market. So you do provide service like that as well.
Yeah, we will provide a formal approval. The only thing we don't know is the property. So we would need to do an appraisal on the property to ensure A, that the property's there, B, that it's worth what someone is wanting to pay for it. However, historically speaking, properties that are generally MLS listed, they all come into value. Usually everything is okay. And also, Mo's on the call here. As an expert, he also knows the market, the values, and what's happening and if there are any issues. So I do encourage you to work with, a qualified realtor like Mo, who has that knowledge to be able to advise you on the value of the home, etc., prior to removing any financing condition.
Yeah, I'm just going
Okay,
to jump in here
fantastic.
as just to give you an example of what Naveed and I have done.
Okay.
Basically, with a client here recently, same sort of thing, right? Pre-approval was done. Naveed gave me the numbers, and then we didn't have to put a financing condition in because everything was verified. So it was unfortunately we didn't get the property because it was a bidding war, but very simple and smooth process for the buyer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
inshallah, I will do my best to ensure that you put your best foot forward. Ensure that you don't put yourself in a situation where you can't get out, because it's the last thing we want. So we will support everyone all the way. I'm available 24/7 at any point in time that anyone needs to call me when they're going through the process. Sometimes it's easier to give me a call to answer the question versus hitting Google or going to the website to get the answer. So feel free to reach out to me, anyone at any time, and I'll be sure to do my best to guide you.
Okay. Perfect.
It's funny, Naveed talks about being available. Just before the panel started, I got a call from a sister who was looking for a halal mortgage. And when I answered, I said, "Hello, Assalamu alaikum, this is EQRAZ. How can I help you?" She was surprised. She said, "Oh, I did not expect somebody's going to answer the phone on Saturday. I was just going to leave a voicemail." So she had to actually call me back after 5 minutes because she wanted her mom and everything. So to be there with her. My point is, um, I think what's important for customers, and Mo will realize that because you're the front person facing the customer first, that customers feel safer, that all parties involved are available to them day and night. So at EQRAZ, I can assure all the people listening to this, try to call us at midnight and somebody will answer the phone because this is how we want to be. We want to make it extremely easy, comfortable, and safe. The whole process should feel very comfortable. And alhamdulillah, I feel like that's where we are really kind of differentiating ourselves and we're here to help the community. And this is how we want to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Naveed, actually, I was going to say one thing. Mo kind of gave us the breakdown for the Edmonton market, and that was from the real estate side of things. Now, if we look at the mortgage side of things, the mortgage industry, where do you guys see things in the marketplace heading? In what direction, and how are things looking on your side based off the rates?
Yeah, there's multiple opinions out there, but they're all generally gearing towards the Canadian market or economy. The overnight lending rate and with the elections and stuff down south, that there is an indication, strong indication that the rates will be dropping. So as a result of rates dropping, what that tells us in our industry or what we've experienced historically is that as rates drop, it becomes more affordable for individuals to purchase homes because their monthly obligation fits within their budget. Having said that, what that does is it puts pressure. And so the individuals that weren't able to purchase an average home in Edmonton for whatever most say 550, now given that the rates have dropped, it comes within their budget. So if there was only one or two people available to buy a home like that, now there's going to be 6 to 8 families that are able to compete on the same property. And I think Mo had mentioned earlier that we were working on a file where a client was competing. Like, who would have ever thought that right now, today, with the state of our economy and the uncertainty out there, that people would be competing and overpaying for properties. But that's basically what's happening. It's all primarily based on pressures that the future is indicating rates are dropping. As a result, home prices will increase. And getting in today, prior to that rate actually decreasing, is beneficial, because a lot of times the reality is that a home's going to close within 60 to 90 days. And if we have an anticipation that the overnight lending rate up until June will drop by 25 basis points twice, which is 50 basis points total, they know that their monthly obligation will be lower. As a result, people who choose to purchase today will benefit. What will happen is they will get the lower rate at the time, and they've purchased today, which pricing is lower, but they're closing in May or June. So that tends to help a lot for sure. And that's what we're seeing in our market. It's very busy. You know, a lot of renewals and stuff are coming up after COVID. In 2026, we anticipate the rates to be fairly low. And different opinions, obviously, depending on which region you're in the country. House pricing, we do anticipate to increase significantly. And I chatted with Mo a little bit about this, but Mo, can you comment a little bit of maybe on over the next 12 to 24 months where you feel the real estate market in Edmonton specifically will be based on the economy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with the way the market has gone here in Edmonton, I think the trajectory that we are seeing is over the next 12 to 24 months, we'll probably see a 10% increase year over year in terms of house pricing. And just to give you an idea, single family homes in Edmonton from January 25 to January 24, we saw an increase of 17% in 12 months. That's on single family homes. As an average in Edmonton, between single family homes, condominiums, semi-detached, row homes, etc., we saw a 10.5% increase in the Edmonton market, which is showing strong signs of where the market is headed. And based on RBC Outlook, ATB Outlook, these professionals that I was at a couple seminars a few weeks ago, they are seeing that at least in Edmonton this year, we're probably going to see an 8 to 10% increase in home prices here. So it definitely is a strong market.
Okay, perfect, Mo. And actually, Mo, I agree with you on that because I do see that. Ontario, the market's completely different. In BC, it's different. But in Edmonton, if I was a buyer and I saw the market moving this way, and with the rates coming down and people moving into
Yeah.
the province, I would definitely. I'm not telling anybody to buy or sell, but as a consumer myself, I would think about getting into the market sooner than later because
Yeah.
I do agree. I do see the prices going up.
Yeah,
And
I
just one,
I, I do want to interject here and say one thing though, that I completely, while I agree with all of you guys on the market conditions and getting into the market, we have to keep in mind that most of our customers, that there's 2 million Muslims in Canada. That's 500,000 households, 500,000 households. Most of them do not even own a house because they did not have a halal mortgage. I think owning a house is a very important in our culture, in our religion, in every way. Owning your own house and having the safety of your own roof over your head rather than a rental, I think it's not just even about the market. My view personally is, and I'm a 50-year-old guy who still does not own a house. I'm still living in a rental house because I'm waiting for a halal mortgage that that I can qualify for. But it's a like for my wife and for my kids, it's a very emotional decision to be living in rentals versus having our own house. So I think we can never play that game of what are the interest rates, what are the profit rates, what are the market pricing. When you want to buy a house for you, you're going to be in the house inshallah for the next 20, 25 years, and you're building a nest egg for yourself. When we buy a house and house prices keep going up, if you look at the Canadian history, look at the history of the last 40 years. If you look at a graph, it goes up. It just keeps going up, 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 up. It only went down once, more than 25%. And that was just after the COVID crazy prices went back down. And over 40 years, the houses have kept on going up, and they're going to continue to go up in the long term. So I think that's something we have to keep in mind. It's sort of like day trading versus investing in the S&P for a long term. I think regardless of where the markets are going, owning a house is a very important safety factor for one's own financial well-being, I think. I don't know. What do you guys think
Absolutely.
about
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a big thing culturally too. People, regardless of what culture you come from, you want to own your home. You don't want to pay rent forever. And some people who don't have the option for Islamic financing, they'll just, unfortunately, they'll be forced to rent forever. As Zuhair, you touched on a few things, and we're getting some questions. I just wanted to ask one of them here, and someone was asking, how is the cost difference um, for the rates? And is it higher? Is it the same? How does that work?
Yes, in fact, I noticed a question from my namesake, brother Zuhair Ahmed, who's put a very detailed question about the pricing, because he's mentioning and commenting on the fact that EQRAZ is offering mortgages at 8% profit rate compared to TD Bank offering at whatever the rate is, 4 to 5, maybe 4.9% or something.
Hmm.
Um, halal mortgages are more expensive than conventional mortgages for three reasons. When you compare to TD Bank or RBC Bank, they are issuing mortgages at 4.9%, for example. What is the cost of their funds? It's zero. Because where's your bank account, for example? Do you have a bank account with TD, CIBC? Which bank do you have a bank?
CIBC.
So you must maintain maybe 5,000, 10,000, whatever dollars in that account. So right now, what CIBC is doing, they're not paying you any interest on that. It's a checking account or whatever. They don't pay you interest, but they are using your $10,000 and issuing interest-bearing mortgages using that money at 5% or 4.9%. So TD is earning 4.9% on that because their cost is zero. When EQRAZ, as a halal lender, as a halal financier, is issuing mortgages at 8%, we are having to take money from our investors at around 7.2, 7.3%. So we are making only 0.5% approximately. That's our profit margin. Everything else is going to the people, the institutions that are investing in us. That's one reason that we don't get free money. So until we become an Islamic bank, we don't get free money. Our money that we get is expensive. Now, why is it expensive? That's the second reason. When an investor that is investing with EQRAZ compares investing with EQRAZ to issue halal mortgages versus investing in another ABC company, they look at the risk and return. Sharia compliant Sharia law requires the investor to take on much more risk than conventional lending does. We take money from our investors through a strictly Sharia compliant wakala agreement. That puts more risk in the hands of the investor, so they want a higher premium for that. So while they will lend $10 million to another company for 5% or 4%, they want 7% or 7.2% from us because there's more risk in their hands. That's the second reason. The third reason halal financing is expensive, guys, you know how banks have compliance departments?
Yep.
And they spend millions of dollars on compliance because they want to make sure that they comply with the law. Otherwise, they get fined. A couple of the big banks recently got fined about $3.2, $3.5 billion because of AML, anti-money laundering regulatory issues. EQRAZ, as a halal lender, halal financier, has to have two separate compliance. We have to have an entire Sharia compliance infrastructure in place because it is not just the product that makes us halal, the product document. We have to have everything Sharia compliant. Employee contracts, third-party contractors, our servicing, every time a cash transaction happens. It is extremely expensive and highly risky for us if we don't do it properly. If we do one wrong transaction, we could lose Sharia compliance. And that means we have to give any profit or revenue we earn as a charity, and we would just go bankrupt. So that Sharia compliance is extremely important. And we have an entire Sharia compliance department and Sharia board, which costs hundreds of thousands of dollars of money and will go into millions once we get larger. So that's another reason. And the final reason halal financing is more expensive, and I'm sorry I'm ranting on a little bit because I get this question every day 10 times.
No, this is important.
The final reason it's more expensive is a supply and demand situation. Right now in Canada, the sources of funding available, sources of halal funding available are very limited. Whereas the demand right now, in our estimation, based on the surveys we've done, is about $300 billion today of halal financing. But there's no funding available. It's very limited funding. So obviously, the supply demand makes this more expensive. The good news is, this is what happened in all G20, all Western economies. Halal financing was always more expensive in the early days, just like halal meat was very expensive in Canada about 30 years ago compared to today. But we expect, and in fact, EQRAZ is working on a couple of very big, inshallah, deals, which if they go through, in about 18 months' time, by the time our customers who are taking mortgages, by the time they renew, we expect, inshallah, that in 18 to 24 months' time, our mortgage rate, by today's rates, will go down from 8% to about 6% or 5.9%. So we are already working on that next stage of reducing the pricing. But I hope that this kind of clarifies to Brother Zuhair, who asked this question about the pricing issue.
Okay, perfect. And Zahir, that was a great explanation. Thank you so much. And one of the questions they're asking too is, what is the down payment requirement in Edmonton? Can you give more information?
Deep, do you
So
want to
Yeah,
answer that?
I'll take that. So the down payment requirement for any Sharia compliant financing product is 20%, primarily because anything less than 20% has to be insured by the federal government. And as Zahir had mentioned, it's not regulated or insurable for Sharia compliant financing, and Zahir can add to that. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is what Zahir touched on is if what I understood from Zahir is that I'm going to wait 2 years, so my monthly obligation is more reasonable, and or that the profit rate that's being charged is a little more reasonable to conventional banking. And that's fine if you'd like to do that. However, I think we need to go back to what Mo had mentioned, that if the Edmonton market is going to be up between 8 to 10%, if the Edmonton market historically in the last Mo, I can't recall the time period, but you said it went up 17%. If you start to look at those numbers, although the profit rate calculated for your monthly obligation is lower, the amount of monies that you will be borrowing will be higher. So if you actually do the calculation, which I can do calculations for you, you're more than welcome to give me a call, and I can show to you, okay, this is your payment today at 8% if you buy for 550. If you wait 2 years and we assume that the property goes up to say 650, this is your obligation at 6%. And I think you'll quickly learn and realize that the payment is either the same or more.
but
And so what do you actually gain from that? If you buy today, you will gain equity of 100,000. In addition to that, because the people feel that the costs are quite high, some Muslim families are doing what my parents did when they came to this country in 1970. Well, you know, four kids. No one would rent out a property to them because they got 4 kids. And in Canada, having 4 kids was like, whoa, what are these guys doing? But nonetheless, you know, we had to rent out our basement. You know, my father rented out, worked 3 jobs, rented out the basement to allow for, you know, additional income to be able to support the family. And so renting out a portion of the home. So if you were out shopping with Mo or stuff, my recommendation would be to consider a property which would have a 1 bedroom unit available to rent out for a specific dollar amount, which Mo can possibly share with us. You know, I think in Edmonton it's about 1,000 to 1,200 that could potentially be earned as a one bedroom apartment,
Yeah,
which could help you with that cash flow. So do think about these things. The best time to invest was yesterday. I think everyone knows that. The market is increasing, it's going up. And I think I feel that every one of my clients has a responsibility to their family, more specifically to their children, and for the generations to come to establish wealth and build wealth. And if you look at the last 25 to 30 years, real estate has done extremely well. And I think you have an obligation to your children and your family to make sure that you invest and build. You need to build the foundation for your family. That is one thing as a brother, I'm humbly asking you, if you're looking for Sharia compliant financing, it's available. Do invest in real estate. Take a strong look at the numbers and think of the future, the next 20, 25 years of where you want to be and where you want to see your children and how well you want to see them as well.
you know, I want to touch on something, Naveed, you said there. When you gave out the numbers, if you wait and the market, like most said, went up 17% year over year from January to January, it would be in people's best interest, even though the rate's higher and they're looking for Islamic financing, if they were to buy today, because if they waited, they'll miss out on the equity. But not only do they miss out on the equity, they have, if the price was to go up $100,000, they're going to have $100,000 more debt that they're going to have to pay off because the prices have moved. So if you're worried about paying a rate of 5% to 8%, but you lost out on 17% of the gain year over year that they're seeing over the Edmonton market. So I think it would be kind of wise to get in the market sooner than later. And there's one other question that just came up. Someone was asking Naveed, if someone wanted to switch over, if they have a conventional mortgage, they already bought a house, they wanted to switch to Islamic financing, is that available?
Absolutely. Yeah. No problem at all. We will do a quick switch, exact same process. And we just send it out to the lawyer and they will process it. The process that I mentioned earlier, if you're joining late or can't recall, is just basically fill out an application, provide your documentation, mortgage statement, etc. And then we will approve you within 2 to 3 days with the underwriter, and we will close the deal.
And one thing, how long of a term of a mortgage is it? So if I were to get a mortgage with EQRAZ and purchase a home, is it a 3-year term, a 5-year term, a 1-year term? What is it?
So at eCRAZ, they are offering a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, and 5-year contract. So what you
Because one of the
can do, my
questions,
recommend.
sorry, Naveed, I'll just ask you the question then too. Someone's asking, Saeed is asking, if I lock in at 8% for 5 years, then how can I switch to 5.9 2 years into the mortgage? So I guess to answer his question, he would just do it a 2-year term.
Not necessarily, because anything can happen. So if he feels that the individual feels that a 5-year term is satisfactory to them, they want to know what their fixed cost is for the next 5 years. They're budgeting, maybe they have a contract, employment, maybe they're planning on moving or doing something. So no problem, you can take a 5-year contract. The terms and conditions are exactly like a conventional bank. So if you are terminating the contract for multiple reasons, number one, you're downsizing, or you're purchasing a larger home, or you're moving from province to province. So basically what you would do at that point in time, if you were to sell and not purchase another property, you would be terminating the contract. So with EQRAZ, you would pay a 3 months profit and or 3 months profit rate differential. That is the exact same calculation and guidelines that are used by any conventional bank as well. So whatever the conventional bank is offering you to terminate your contract, that's exactly what EQRAZ is offering to you as well. One of the benefits of working with EQRAZ, based on my research with all lending institutions, is that EQRAZ is allowing our clients to make a 20% accumulative lump sum payment annually. So if you're in a 5-year contract, you're able to deposit 20% lump sum per year. So I'm going to give you a number valuation. If you purchase a home for 500, 20% down is 100. Your mortgage is now 400. 20% of 400 is $80,000. Every year you're able to, without penalty, fees, or anything, pay the mortgage down. So if you did 80,000 for 5 years, 8 times 5 is 440, so 400,000. You essentially would pay your mortgage off within the flexibility of the product that's offered to you. Generally speaking, conventional mortgages, they will offer you 10. Some lenders may offer you 15. Some are accumulative and some are not. What I mean by non-accumulative is it's a one-time. So here's your 12 months, whatever payment you make towards that flexible option, you have to wait the following year. With EQRAZ, every month you can give them money, as much money as you want. 1 month might be 5,000. Let's say you get a bonus out in December and you receive a bonus for 20,000 or 30,000. You can then make a 20 or 30,000. As long as you're within the 12-month period, you cannot exceed the 20%. If you do exceed the 20%, then again, just like any conventional bank, EQRAZ will charge you 3 months profit or 3 months profit rate differential, whichever is higher. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, perfect. We just got another question here. It's an interesting one. Does it mean we're indirectly supporting conventional banks and paying interest indirectly?
I want to take that one.
Okay, sir.
I think what's important is when we are living in Canada, it's very difficult to avoid riba in many ways. We can minimize it, but we cannot avoid it. So, yes, unfortunately, when we have a bank account, we are indirectly supporting it. But in Canada, you cannot live without a bank account. Your salary will not come if you don't have a bank account. If you are living in a rented house, right? If you're living in a rented house, I know for a fact that my landlord, whom I'm paying, let's just say a number, I won't tell the exact rent. Let's just say I'm paying him $4,000 rent. I know that he's paying to the bank 3,900 in mortgage payments, in interest bearing mortgage payments. So instead, I'm avoiding riba for myself, but I'm allowing my landlord to pay interest directly from my rental. My rental goes into his bank account. The bank deducts it in interest. So and that's another reason I want to get out of the rent. I don't want to pay somebody else's interest. Like it's the same thing. So my kids, they use the bus system in the school. If you're going to Walmart to buy, Walmart has a lot of interest loans. The property that they take is on interest. If you're buying any food, the food manufacturers are using interest-based loans. If you're sending your kids to the government public schools, there's a lot of interest involved. So the point is, Islam, as the Quran says, Allah wants ease for us, not hardship. We have to be practical while we're living in a Western country. So wherever we can avoid interest, we should avoid it. But we also should be practical and realistic. We cannot become totally fanatical. Otherwise, the only way to do it is to move to a very strict Islamic country, and that's not going to be the real solution. The Sharia scholars do allow to have bank accounts. So the answer to the brother or sister is yes, unfortunately, we are directly, not indirectly. If you have a bank account, you are directly contributing to the bank earning riba. But the Sharia scholars are very clear on this, that it is okay. You can go ahead and keep the bank account open because you don't have a choice.
Yeah, Zohair, actually, it's a good point you made, because when you have a bank account, they're going to take your money, times it by 10 or 100 even, and lend it out, taking interest with your money, right? So
And the
this,
same for the rental.
yeah,
Where's your rental money going? It's going to pay somebody else's interest.
yeah, it's, and Mo, you on there?
And we have 3 minutes left, Raza. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
we just FYI too.
Yeah, I went through the questions. I think we pretty much answered everybody. There was somebody who wanted some breakdown on the Calgary market. I don't know if we have any information on that right now. Mo, do you know anything about the Calgary market?
I mean, I don't have statistics on it, but I could tell you, based on what's happening in Edmonton, Calgary's a lot more in demand, and prices are, I think, on average about $100,000 to $150,000 difference right now between Edmonton and Calgary.
You're seeing a lot more demand where?
In Calgary,
Yeah.
you're competing against a lot more buyers out there too.
So the Calgary is showing similar signs that Edmonton's
Yeah.
showing. It's really hot
Yeah,
market.
and typically, just for everyone's information, Edmonton usually follows suit in Calgary. So whatever Calgary's trending towards, Edmonton usually follows suit. So Edmonton's market being at where it's at right now is a good indication to where it could be because of where Calgary's at right now. Calgary's ahead of us. We usually follow suit.
Okay, perfect. Excellent for that. And if anybody's still on there watching, if you have any questions, I know we're going to be wrapping it up in a few minutes. And we want to thank everybody for attending. And thank you, Mo. Thank you, Naveed. Thank you, Zohair. That was really helpful. It actually answered a lot of questions that I had myself. And now I'm more aware of how Edmonton's doing, because in Ontario, the market's a certain way, and British Columbia, the market's a certain way. But I do know in Edmonton, and I would advise people out in Edmonton and in Calgary, if you see a market moving in that direction, because we've gone through that in Ontario, we've gone through that in BC, and it would be wiser to get in sooner than later, because what you'll see over the summer, prices might calm down a little bit, even in Edmonton, and it could be a great time to get in, because what will happen is when it goes to the end of the year, if the rates stay the way they are, I will assure you, next year, November, December, January, you're going to see a big increase in prices again, anywhere from 10 to 17%. And I
Raza,
think that'll happen.
Thank you, Raza. Before we close the webinar, I just wanted to have Mo to request Mo to share his contact details if any customer wants to call him to help with their purchase. So Mo, if you can also, if you could do that, and then I would like to also guide customers where to get the necessary information about their EQRAZ Halal mortgage. But I'll let Mo just close with his contact details, whatever he wishes to share.
Yeah. So if everyone wants to take my number down, you can call me. Call or text me is probably going to be the quickest way to get a hold of me. So it's 780-977-7710. Okay. Call me, text me. I will, if I don't answer, I will typically call back or answer back, usually within an hour or two. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Mo, can we, I think I saw one question on there with respect to fees for working with you. Do you, when it comes to individuals that are looking to purchase a home, how are the fees work on the real estate side when they're purchasing a home?
We don't charge any when we're purchasing a home.
Okay, yeah. So EQRAZ doesn't
Yeah.
charge anyone for using you to purchase a home.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, perfect, guys. I wanted to thank Zuhair. Any last words, or we're good to go?
No, thank you very much. And I hope these are not my last words. But
Absolutely, buddy.
no, I'm just kidding. So, guys, my request to all individuals, all brothers and sisters here is please go to EQRAZ.com and go to the FAQ videos page where our Sharia scholars have directly in Arabic, English, Urdu, and even in French explained the entire product structure, sources of financing, how and why we are halal. Also, to apply for an EQRAZ mortgage, it's very easy. You just go to EQRAZ.com, click on the apply now button. It's a 5-minute process. And then the next step would be that Naveed will, or his team member will be in touch with you. And we are available to answer your calls 7 days a week. 1-888-55 EQRAZ. So 1-888-55-37729. You don't need to call me only to get a halal mortgage. You can call us if you have any questions or concerns regarding halal financing, and we will do our best to assist you.
Okay, awesome, guys. I wanted to thank everybody for attending. And like Zuhair said, if you have any questions, you can reach out to Mo in Edmonton. And if any mortgage questions, you can contact Naveed Malik, and he works right across Canada. He'll even fly out. He loves traveling, so just give him a shout. He'll fly out and meet you. All right, guys. Thank you so much, Zuhair.
Thank you, guys. And anybody who's in Toronto, by a chance, please do visit the Ramadan Fest in Mississauga. And be careful while driving in the snow. All right, guys.
All right,
Thank you,
awesome,
Raza.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.